Welcome back into another edition of Prime Sports World, and a very happy Monday from everybody here at Prime Sports World. NBA free agency is underway. We're going to have a rapid reaction show. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. Izzy, things were a little bit slow yesterday, but this morning, the gates opened on NBA free agency, and players were signing like crazy all this morning and this afternoon. I'm, of course, your host, David On Point Huffman. Right there is the CEO, Mr. Israel Rivera. Welcome to the show. Happy Monday, my friend.
Happy Monday. It's July 1st. Special week this week. Short week this week. So everybody make sure they get all their work in by Wednesday, because Thursday is one of those days. Independence Day, right?
I have to work. So
yeah, well, it'll be all right.
But
I have a couple things for you. But you know what, David? Going back to what you said, sorry to get off track. Rose broke that Paul George news at like
7 in the morning or something.
No, it was like 2 a.m. It was like 3 a.m. or something like that. I was like, dude, what are you still up for? But I guess when you
that guy just does not sleep.
Yeah, you don't sleep, especially during this time. So
that the official 3:30 in the morning Eastern Standard Time was when that Paul George news broke. It was pretty quiet. It was pretty quiet like the first day. Like, we had this 6 p.m. and we figured we have all these signings right away. And like the biggest name was like James Harden went back to the Clippers, and like Chris Paul went to the Spurs. But like it was a pretty quiet first day of NBA free agency.
Yeah, it was.
I also think because of the tampering rules and like the way the NBA has restructured like how NBA free agency is handled, I think it's much more difficult to negotiate with free agents before before it's actually available to do so. So I thought that had a lot to do with the way it worked out. Let's talk about rapid reaction. Let's talk about some winners, some losers, best, worst contract, best value, some head scratching decisions, as this is our rapid reaction show where we just kind of break things down as we go. Winners, and let's start with the winners, as everybody's got to be a winner. I'm going to go my first winner. It's going to be the Philadelphia 76ers. The fact that they when I did their off-season preview show last week, the only players that were currently on their roster was Joel Embiid, and that is it. Since then, they've gotten Tyrese Maxey re-signed. They brought back Kelly Oubre on a pretty team-friendly contract, and they got the big fish. They got Paul George. And anytime you get the quote-unquote best player available when it comes to free agency, you're a winner. Even if that contract is probably a stupid overpay.
They legit have, one of the best big threes, if not the best big three in the NBA, right? That complement each other to the most fullest, right? You got a dominant big MVP candidate in Joel Embiid year in, year out, and probably one of the most dominant bigs. It's him and Jokic. And then you have Tyrese Maxey, who also got paid on the contract extension as well. Shout out to him. He's a good shooter, a playmaker, a guy that can get his own shot. And then you have an elite shooter in a wing and Paul George who can go and get his own shot. And they can just play, and you can play off of Joel Embiid out of the post. And then everything else is just fill in the blanks, right? So the Philadelphia 76ers, out of everybody in the NBA, well, let me just talk about the East because the West is its own, thing. In the East, out of anybody in the East, they are probably the most talented, if not just as talented, not named the Boston Celtics, right?
And the New York Knicks. I think you can throw the Knicks in
and
there.
And the New York, you can throw the New York Knicks in there as well. But it's New York. I think Philly second. I think if healthy, right? Because health does matter. Health does matter, right? So like if we're looking at a Philadelphia 76ers Boston Celtics series in the playoffs, health does matter. So I'm assuming if these guys stay healthy and remain healthy, they will be the biggest threat, I think, to Boston, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. But yeah, I think Philadelphia. Anytime you get the best guy in free agency, from some of my other ways, I think the Dallas Mavericks are a big winner. You get Klay Thompson. I think he complements what Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving do well on offense, and it only costs you like a second-round pick and some like a contract filler or some nonsense like that. So
yeah, just going off of that. I mean, excuse me. That's my last watermelon. I promise you. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So Clayton. So it ends the era of the Golden State Warriors. I'm so sad to see that, but I mean, the Warriors haven't been the Warriors. I think that writing was on the wall for probably a year and a half already, maybe 2 years, right? Ever since the 2 years off season with Jordan Poole after they won the title, and they're only 2 years removed from the title. So, they didn't want to, pay Klay Thompson, whatever money he wanted. And so he goes to a team that, he also fits seamlessly in. They need shooting. They had shooting Zetaprim. I mean, he can't go over 10 like he did in the elimination game, but Klay Thompson is one of the greatest shooters of all time in the NBA. And when you pair him up with Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, those guys were getting other guys open shots in the playoffs where, all 3 rounds they were knocking them down, except when they got to the finals. Well, now you got a guy who's experienced, who's been there. Klay Thompson, I think, is going to play with a chip on his shoulder this season. I think it's a great fit for Dallas. And I mean, they're right there. And when it comes to teams that, when it comes to a team that was, made it to the finals, they can very well get back to the Western Conference Finals just with this move alone. So I do think on that front. I think they sent out Josh Green.
Josh Green is going to end up in Charlotte for some reason. So
yeah. I think it's like a 3-team trade or something like that. But I don't know all the logistics of the trade. So,
but why Charlotte is involved, I'm not really sure. But okay.
So I think I got one winner. I got a winner, and I think these are just they're just players. I got a winner. I want to say, how do I say this? The bigs, but not like the premium bigs, right?
Isaiah Hartensteins of the world.
Yeah, Isaiah Hartenstein and I don't know how to call them, the B class bigs or the C class bigs. Those guys got paid, right? You had Nicholas Claxton, he got paid, right? Isaiah Hartenstein got paid. It's for some reason Hartenstein's getting more money in his deal than Jalen Brunson's getting. So I gotta say, those guys are winners as well. And do you know who else is a winner? Now, damn it! And I told you when we were on here, a couple weeks ago, Emmanuel Quickly's a winner, right? Because the Charlotte, because the Toronto
Raptors
opened the bank for him.
Opened up the back the Brinks truck up to his house. Like,
I told you they were going to do that. I told you they were going to do that. I knew they were going to overpay for him, and they did. I don't know what the market is, but damn it. I mean, Emmanuel Quickly's one happy day. He has one of the best agents.
Yeah, it's true.
It's like what, 4-year, 175, something like that?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, he's a good basketball player, but I'm not sure he's worth
$175 million. Yeah, so he's a winner in my opinion and in my book. And I mean, other than that, I mean, there weren't really necessarily. I would say that the San Antonio Spurs. Let's talk about them for a little while. Yeah, let's talk about them for a little bit. Yeah. So
well, your boy Victor Wembanyama finally gets a legit point guard to play with him.
Yeah, but how
about Chris Paul and his career and like where he is at this stage of his career, he's still an upgrade at the point guard position, no question.
Absolutely, he's an upgrade at the point guard position. Does this make them a playoff team currently constructed? No. But if they somehow, some way can land Lauri Markkanen in a trade, then it definitely makes things interesting for that team, right? Now, we're not even talking about playing. We're talking about this team could be a 6 seed of some sort. And then maybe you add a couple more veterans. I think San Antonio, I saw what they did in the draft. Drafting Stephon Castle, they didn't keep that 8 pick. They sent it out to Minnesota.
I still don't understand that decision. Like,
you got to think about it, David. In like 7 years, I was talking to TJ about this. I said they're gearing up to get Mohamed Debone, man. Come on, man.
I just don't understand like why you wouldn't try to improve this roster now when you have Victor Wembanyama on his rookie contract. I mean, he's going to be 27 by 2031. I just don't. And there's no guarantee that this pick is going to be in the top 10. Like, I know Minnesota doesn't exactly have the track record of being a team that's been like consistently good for the course of their franchise. But I mean, Anthony Edwards is still going to be on the team in 2031. I mean, I'm assuming. That decision is real heavy. But getting Chris Paul is a definite winner. I got the New York Knicks as a winner as well. As long as they can get back OG Anunoby, I think that's going to happen. But bringing in Mikal Bridges, yes, the Hartenstein loss does hurt. But I think that they're going to be okay, and they'll find somebody else to play those backup big minutes or start at the big position. Then I thought they
still have Precious Achiuwa, right?
I mean, but I think he's a restricted free agent. I don't think they re-signed him, but I also don't think he's that good. But
he's not Isaiah Hartenstein good. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, for sure. I like Oklahoma City. Trading for Alex Caruso, I like that move for them, and I also like bringing in Isaiah Hartenstein. I think he's a really good compliment to what they have in Chet Holmgren. Like, Oklahoma City is a winner,
big time winner. I think Chet can play the 4. I really had a problem with him playing like center especially amongst like the bigger centers that have a little weight on them. So he can play the 4 and he fits in that role as a stretch 4, and let Hartenstein deal with the meat and potatoes in the middle at the 5 position. So definitely like that. I definitely like that. And then Caruso, gives them that, that dynamic, that 3-and-D guard. That's a pesky defender, on-ball defender, one of the best defenders in the NBA. And that starting lineups, looking pretty nice, and they complement each other. They needed 2 guys like that can really play D, while Jalen Williams and SGA do their thing on both sides or on offense, and those guys still can contribute on the offensive side.
So not everybody can be a winner when it comes to free agency. We got to swing into the other direction, talk about them losers. And the first loser that I have is the Chicago Bulls. I don't understand this Patrick Williams contract. It is. I also don't understand.
Was it 4 years, $90 million?
Yeah, something like that, or $80 million maybe.
I know it's $90 million. It's $90 million.
I mean, he was like playing like fringe bench minutes last season. I just don't understand giving him that kind of money. I also don't really like the Jalen Smith contract either. I mean, he hasn't been good at all in the NBA.
$7 million.
I don't like either of those 2 contracts. And I think the DeMar DeRozan thing is going south. I don't think he's going to be back in a Chicago Bulls jersey, and you're going to lose him for nothing. So 5 years, $90 million for Patrick Williams.
Nobody wanted to trade. Nobody wanted to trade them for Zach LaVine. I mean, Golden State offered Chris Paul and Andrew Wiggins, and Chicago said no.
Well, no. Actually, I heard Golden State said no on that deal. The Bulls.
Was it? Oh, Golden State said no. Golden State said no. Okay.
I think the Bulls are the way they've handled that situation and the way they're now the DeMar DeRozan situation is going to pan out. I mean, he's going to walk for nothing. The Chicago Bulls are a loser by my mind so far in free agency.
Big time losers. But you know what? I did mention this. I said that they are going in that youth direction, right? So they figured, DeMar was on the fringe of, because I think with Giddey, with trading for Giddey, who's a young point guard as well. I think that was supposedly the last straw with DeMar. So they said, you know what, we're gonna lock up our 23-year-old, in Patrick Williams. And honestly, I think their mindset, I think, is if he plays starter minutes and gets enough playing time as a starter in a starting role, and they give him enough confidence, in their mindset, they think that he can still be a good player, still be a good two-way player. He does have, like we said on this show a few times, he does have moments where he has talent. Yeah, where he can lock up one of your, a really good offensive player, sometimes maybe the best offensive player, or give them fits, and he can also come on and he can, make spot up threes, and he can, come up and pull out the dribble. He can, rebound. He can, he's strong to the rim. He's athletic.
I'm like 99% sure that the Bulls still don't have the control over their pick next year, and so like if they're going to go young, I mean, this season would have been the season to do it, not next season. I could be obviously wrong about that. Maybe because I don't remember when the DeMar DeRozan pick is supposed to be from the Spurs. But yeah, I don't understand what the Bulls are up to. You got a loser?
I mean, I would say, obviously on the flip side of that, Toronto, obviously, Emmanuel Quickly is a winner, but Toronto is a loser for paying him that much damn money, $175 million. I just don't get that at all. I don't think he's worth that, but whatever the case is, going ahead. And then I think a loser is definitely the, Golden State Warriors. They, pretty much cash strapped. Like they got, waived Chris Paul. They traded for, they traded Klay Thompson. Nobody wants to come there. I don't even think they have enough money to offer anybody. Well, they do have a little bit, but I don't think anybody wants to come there. Yeah.
They do not have no money.
They don't have anything. Yeah, they don't have anything to give. So they're a clear loser.
They lose Klay Thompson, but it's not just going to be like they're replacing him with somebody else. Like,
what about the Los Angeles Clippers? What about the Los Angeles Clippers losing PG for nothing? Yeah, you could have traded him last season when if for something. I think that's actually hindsight. If TJ was here, you'd say that's hindsight, because the Clippers still had a shot to possibly go a little deep in the playoffs, but at the same time, I mean, these rumors for Paul George going to the Sixers were already, kind of in motion already, even during the season. That's why we talk about tampering. Sixers might get hit with a little something when it's all said and done again.
I mean, if they end up winning the championship with him on the team, it's going to be worth it. I got it. My other loser, I got you kind of touched on with Golden State and the Clippers. I also have the Lakers as kind of a loser as well. I mean, they were kind of one of those teams that were linked to like a Paul George. They were linked to a Klay Thompson. You miss out on both of those guys. And now you kind of just figure out, like, what are the Lakers going to do? I mean, LeBron still hasn't signed his name on the dotted line. They've not gotten better this offseason. Like, I think D'Angelo Russell opted into his final year of his contract, but they have not improved this team this offseason. And they're just going to run this back. And we've seen what this team looks like when they're just running it back. They're like a fringe playoff team. I do like Dalton Knecht. Obviously, I think he's going to be a good addition to the team. But like when you talk about free agency, I just think that they've missed on the big fishes. And I think a lot of things, like the aura of the Lakers, like you got to know if you're a Laker, if you're thinking about signing with the Lakers, you probably got one season, maybe two with LeBron. And then what are you going to have after that? What's the Lakers' future? They don't have building block pieces on this roster right now.
So with the Lakers, I think their last play is they want to offer to get a deal done with DeMar DeRozan. They want to get a deal done with DeMar DeRozan, and I think that they're going to offer the mid-level exception. I don't know if that's going to be able to cut it with DeMar DeRozan. Like the season that he had last year was not bad at all. I mean, he wasn't a bad Bull. He was really productive with the Chicago Bulls. I mean, he warrants a borderline max contract in a way.
I mean, he carried the Bulls for a majority of the last 2 seasons.
So to offer him a mid-level contract is a lowball offer for him. There's other teams that can offer him
if you're
something.
The Lakers, that's all you got at your disposal.
That's all you got right now.
I mean, unless you're going to do some sort of sign and trade where you're sending something back to Chicago in some sort of sign and trade, but I'm not sure.
I think LeBron has to take a pay cut, and I think what the rumor is, or everybody's saying now, all the big players are saying that LeBron, since they couldn't get Klay Thompson or whatever the case is, because LeBron was willing to take a pay cut to get Klay Thompson and DeMar DeRozan, but since Klay Thompson was off the board now LeBron's talking about signing a 2-year max contract deal or 3-year max contract deal. I think it's 2 years, whatever. But that's not going to.
I think it's 2 years fully guaranteed. I think it's got a player option for that 3rd season.
Yeah, and the thing is that I don't know if you're going to have enough money to even get DeMar DeRozan if you make that deal happen. I mean, you're going to offer him the mid-level exception. You're basically telling DeMar to take the pay cut when DeMar is going to be the one that's going to be possibly carrying the Lakers on most nights, in my opinion, when the Lakers' offense is sputtering. If they get DeMar DeRozan, when the Lakers' offense is sputtering, you can go to DeMar and tell him to go get you a bucket in the mid-range, in the post, or whatever the case is, and you're going to offer him a mid-level exception. I don't know. I don't know about that, David. So, the Lakers got some. I don't know what they're gonna do. So
I don't know what they're gonna do either. They're gonna have to figure it out. From the winners and losers, let's just talk about best contract, worst contracts. Let's do some value and then worst value and then head scratching. So just one here. You got your best contract that's been signed so far. As we are just 1 day into NBA free agency, what's your best contract?
You know what? I want to say, 4-year, 125, 1.9, 125.9 signed a contract extension signed for Derek White. He's super underrated, in my opinion. He warrants that money. He's a hell of a 3-and-D guy. And I don't know, if you're talking about contract situation, best contract, I don't know if you're thinking like numbers or best value, but I think locking up Derek White for the next 4 years, you're pretty much saying, hey guys, we have a championship window of 4, 5, 6 years here. Derek White is a big important piece to our franchise. I think that's one of the better contracts, that was signed, in my opinion. I think that's the right type of money for him as well, too.
Yeah. I mean, shout out to Jason Tatum, became the highest paid player in NBA history earlier today.
$314 million.
5 years. Yeah, $315 million for that contract for Jason Tatum. My best contract is going to go to Kelly Oubre Jr. He was really good for the Sixers last season, and he's on a pretty team-friendly deal here for them. Hold on. It's 2 years, $16.3 million. Includes a player option for the 2nd season. It's essentially just a 1-year deal. Kelly Oubre was good for them last season, and he's an immediate starter. You can put him next to Paul George. You can put him next to Tyrese Maxey. Kelly Oubre Jr. is a good value there for the Philadelphia 76ers. From there, let's talk about the worst contract. I'm going back into Chicago, and I'm talking about Patrick Williams. 5 years, $90 million is just too much value for what he's been on the court over the last 2 seasons. He basically was unplayable last season for spurts. He's gotten progressively worse every season that he's been in the NBA. I just think that's too much money for a guy who's just a kind of a fringe role player. I don't understand it. I don't get it.
Yeah, that's pretty much that's pretty much probably my worst contract out of all of them. I mean, if I had to probably go with another one, it's that Tyrese Maxey. I'm not Tyrese Maxey, but that Emmanuel Quickley contract that Toronto Raptors signed him for. I think that's a pretty bad deal. But also, like, what is Detroit doing with Tobias Harris? 2 years, $52 million.
Yeah, I don't know.
Come on, bro. Like, you're gonna give him 20-something million. He hasn't done anything.
He's going back to where it all started.
What do you think about? What do you think about my bad? What do you think about KCP getting signed by the Magic? 3 years.
I think it's all right.
I think it's an
overpay for KCP, but I think if you're the Orlando Magic, I think you need to overpay in order to get free agents to come to your, especially if you're trying to lure somebody away from the Denver Nuggets, that you have to have an appealing offer on the table. And if you're taking somebody away from the Denver Nuggets, who are just 2 seasons away removed from winning a title, you got to go out and I think he's a perfect complement to what they already have there on their roster. So yes, 3-and-D guy, but they didn't have a choice.
I just think they have enough of those guys on that team. But what are you going to do, right? I think you're right. Yeah. I think you got to overpay. You got to show the landscape that, hey, we're willing to give you some money to come here to Orlando. And I think that's the first domino to fall, in my opinion, in the long run of the next 2-3 years stretch. So,
yeah. So swinging in from best value, I'm going with Andre Drummond, leaving the Philadelphia 70s. Leaving the Chicago Bulls and coming to the Philadelphia 76ers. He's just the perfect prototypical backup big. Gives you good minutes, rebounds the ball, offensive rebound, can give you some offense. He's a fantastic rebounder. 4-time rebounding champion over the course of his NBA career. He's agreed to a 2-year, $10 million deal. I think the second season is a team option. He's just the perfect complement to Joel Embiid. It's really good value for what they're going to get out of him as a player.
Absolutely. So I got 2. My first one's Chris Paul, 1 year, $11 million. He gets to return back to a starter, but he gets to return to that. He gets to, basically guide a young team and play with the generational big and Victor Wembanyama. People kind of forget. Remember when Tyson Chandler, beginning of his career, kind of struggled a little bit with the Bulls, he was okay, but you saw the talent. And then when he went to go play with Chris Paul, he became this different type of player. And so, and that lob threat was just dangerous. Now, I'm not saying Chris Paul, obviously, he's not the same player. Doesn't have, he's a very smart point guard. He's not as quick as he used to be. He's not the best defender, the greatest defender as he used to be. Still a pretty good defender. But I think Chris Paul is a very a great value for that team. He gets to take, Stephon Castle and whoever else. I don't think Trey Jones and those guys are going to be there if they're going to try and swing a Larry Marketing trade. So I think some of those young guys are going to be gone to Utah pretty soon. But I mean, he's a good compliment to Devin Vassell. He'll be a good compliment to Victor Wembanyama. I mean, and I think that's just good value for a veteran point guard, a true point guard, which the San Antonio Spurs desperately needed. And also, they drafted that young kid out of Spain, who I think is going to be like their next Manu Ginobili, in my opinion. But that's just me, and we'll see down the road. But whatever, quote me or whatever you want to say. And then I think the second best value, I think, is Nicholas Batum. I think he signed a 2-year, $9.5 million deal with the LA Clippers. After re-signing James Harden, you still got Kawhi Leonard. You add Nicholas Batum, who is
whatever the Westbrook situation is going to be.
He's going to add 3-and-D. He's going to add a good 3-point shot, a great defender, a good defender, a long defender. And so I think that's a good value to return back to the Clippers for Ty Lue and company.
On the other side, let's talk about the worst value. Who do you got as your worst value?
Man, you got something that's worst value? I don't really.
Yeah,
I would say maybe Jalen Smith.
Yeah, but I'm also going to go Goga Bitadze for the Orlando Magic. 3 years, $25 million. I just don't understand why in bigs that are fringe rotation bigs continue to get this kind of money. We're talking about a guy who had averaged 15 minutes a game, averaged 5 points, 5 rebounds. He's going to be making $10+ million a year for the next 3 seasons. I don't get it. I think that money could be better spent elsewhere.
Man, you know what? I can see it. He's a guy that does give you energy and stuff off the bench, but yeah, not for that money. I'm not giving him $10 million. I probably give him 2 years, $10 million, but I ain't giving him. I'm not giving him that much money to basically come off my bench. Or whatever the case is.
He averaged 15 minutes a night.
And he fell out of rotation. He fell out of rotation as well.
Didn't play him at all in the playoffs. He averaged 5 minutes. He only played in 2 playoff games. He played 5 minutes.
Yeah, no, and like I said, he totally fell out of rotation. Towards the end of the season, and I totally agree with you on that one. worst value. I mean, obviously, I mean, how much is Najee Marshall 3 year 27? I mean, do you like that contract? I mean, it's $9 million a year. I don't really care for Najee Marshall too much. I don't know how much he's gonna play in Dallas, to be honest with you.
I mean, I probably would have rather have kept Derrick Jones Jr. as opposed to
that's what I'm saying, brother. I'm glad. You know what? I'm glad you're on the same wavelength as me because I'm like, how much is Najee Marshall really gonna play? I mean, I would have rather gave a little bit of. I mean, I don't know how much Dante Exum's getting, but he proved himself, to me, to get a little bit of cash. But I don't know if his contract.
I imagine he's like on the veteran minimum. I bet.
Yeah,
but
yeah, super team friendly.
Yeah, 3 years, $30 million for Derrick Jones Jr. I would have rather have just spent a little bit extra money and brought in Derrick Jones Jr. or re-signed him.
I got it to 3-and-D guy, kept the continuity back with the team.
Moving on, let's talk about head scratching. And I got just one for head scratching. So we're coming up on a pretty good draft class, right? Like one of the people have we can find a generational type talent in this next upcoming draft class.
Oh, trust me.
So
I'll be on it.
Why would you bring in players that might impact your ability to get the first overall pick? And if you don't know what I'm talking about Jonas Valanciunas signing with the Wizards on a 3-year deal. The money's not really all that important. Jonas Valanciunas is a good basketball player, and he would be worth the $10 million that they're going to pay him for the next 3 seasons.
Absolutely.
But if you are the Wizards, you should try to bottom out this season and get a difference maker in your franchise. Valanciunas is going to help them win some games this season, and they're not in such. I just don't understand that decision by him to go to a place like Washington where you're not going to do a lot of winning, and for the Wizards, why you would bring him in, knowing you kind of want to tank. It makes no sense to me.
I agree with you on that. I think he's just a perfect compliment. Like Alex R gets to play his natural position at the 4 instead of kind of putting him at the 5. But I do agree with you. I mean, but how good are they going to be? Even they might stink with Jonas Valanciunas.
I know.
I think the consensus is like if next year you can land in the top 5, you don't have to super duper bottom out to get Cooper Flag. You can land in that top 5 and get a very, very, very good NBA prospect coming out that draft. I mean, I mentioned it before. I mean, you got Cooper Flag, you got Ace Bailey, you got Harper,
the other kid from Rutgers,
and VJ Edgecombe. That's Ace Bailey, the other kid that's playing for Rutgers. Dylan Harper, who's Ron Harper's son. Yeah. I mean, they talk about Ace Bailey's being the next T-Mac. They talk about Dylan Harper being another James Harden. They talk about VJ Edgecombe being another D Wade. I'm going to be watching him, when the Bahamas plays in the Olympics. Okay, and Cooper Flag is compared to a Giannis Antetokounmpo's game. So you got 4 American players that could land in the top 5 that are being compared to Hall of Fame-esque players, right? And so if you can land in that top 5. You're good, but they certainly don't help themselves. I agree with you, David, by bringing in a Jonas Valanciunas. I would have brought some cheap guy out from the 7-Eleven and to play center. Fuck if I care. You know what I mean? Let Alex R take up 1 million shots. We're gonna tank if we can't get Cooper Flag. Shit, if we land in the top 5, we're getting one of those guys. So I totally agree with you on that one. I think another head scratching pick for me is Tobias Harris. Going to Detroit. I just think that what the hell does that do for one, Tobias Harris? Dude, you're in you're past. I want to say you're past your prime. You're not going to win in Detroit. You basically went there for a freaking payday. You basically just went there to say, okay, let me get my groove back and let me get paid for it. But you're going to do lots and lots and lots of losing. But I also don't think what does that do for that team? He's going to play power forward. I mean, they have a whole bunch of young guys that they should be playing over, paying a guy like Tobias Harris. I think this, you could have just saved your money this free agency, tanked again, got you a generational talent to go in Detroit, and then, use some money to bring in, in the next free agency's class.
JB Bickerstaff had just accepted that job to be the next head coach.
Good Detroit luck.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck. Sure. From there, let's just talk about the best remaining free agent. It's DeMar DeRozan, right? He's the only guy that I think has is going to be a difference maker when it comes to the people that are still available. And I also think Lauri Markkanen, even though he's not a free agent, I think that there's going to be teams are going to acquire. There's going to be a trade with Lauri Markkanen, I think, before the season starts.
Yeah, and so I think Lauri's linked to the Lakers, and he's linked to the San Antonio. Did I say San? Yeah, to the San Antonio Spurs. So I mean, hey, look, if the Lakers can swing a trade for Lauri Markkanen and bring him in, hey, all power to you. But I think the San Antonio Spurs makes total sense for Lauri Markkanen, not because like they'll be able to pay him, but also just because of the fact that I think he'll be a good fit next to Wembanyama. It fits with Chris Paul. It fits with everybody there. Pop will know how to use him. But also I just I don't know how. I mean, he'll fit in LA, but at the same time, I mean not LA, Golden State. I'm sorry, Golden State. Golden State's linked to him. Golden State's linked to him. I said LA. But like Golden State, I don't think he's gonna like it with Golden State. Like, yeah, it's a better team, but at the same time, it's like, whatever. Yeah. I'd rather see him in San Antonio, in my opinion.
I agree with you on that, but he doesn't really have control over that. But yeah, I think the best top 5 free agents that are still available that have not signed, quote unquote, agreed to contract offers: DeMar DeRozan, Miles Bridges, Gary Trent Jr., Sadiq Bey, who just got his bird rights released from the Hawks, so he's now an unrestricted free agent who cannot match
Gordon
whatever
Hayward.
He does. Yeah, Gordon Hayward, I think, is an afterthought at this point.
Buddy Hield,
Buddy Hield, Javonte Green, Tyus Jones, who's still a free agent. So it'll be interesting to see how
Jr. is still a free agent. Markelle Fultz is still a free agent, unrestricted free agent. Robert Covington, I believe, is still unrestricted free agent.
Markelle Fultz is kind of put together a nice little career for himself.
James Wiseman is still under. If James Wiseman can land, check this out. I understand you laughing there, but if he can land in a right situation, I think I think he can. I mean, he's been in situations Detroit, where they just weren't. Yeah, Detroit, and then before that was Golden State. When you had all those veterans there, he couldn't really crack them in. If you can get him in the right situation, give him a cheap contract. I'm assuming you can get him for cheap. I think he'll be a decent fit somewhere.
I agree with you on that. But yeah, this has been our rapid
reaction. Miles Bridges is still available too.
Yeah, I mentioned that. It's been a rapid reaction to 2024 NBA free agency. Thank you very much for joining us here. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. We're swinging into our NFL preview series tomorrow. You don't want to miss any of that content. So I'm David Huppin, Israel Vera right there. Izzy, what do we do here at the Prime, my friend?
Bring the heat, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's go.
Bring in the heat.
Woo! We'll be back here tomorrow. You guys all have a good night and stay safe.